It's time for everyone's favorite game show. Guess where they got in? Do 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 do. All right. Hi, how's it going? My name is Maria Wicavila. It is so nice to meet you. Thank you for joining me here today. I am a 2005 graduate of Harvard Business School, and I am also the founder of ApplicantLab.com, the online DIY virtual admissions consultant that is replacing the need for very, very, very expensive admissions consultants who want to charge you thousands of dollars. Guess what? You don't have to pay it. Use Applicant Lab instead. Okay, so let's review the profile of the person that we are talking about. First of all, Indian male engineer. Probably the most overrepresented group in all of MBA admissions. Not great. Not a great start. Attended a top 15 engineering school in India, but not one of the famous IITs. Ooh, okay, it's okay, but it's not great. And this person's GMAT was below the school's averages. Oh, no, 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 no. Now, if you have spent a lot of time on these message boards and you have gotten yourself into a place where you think that the stats are the only thing that matters and the GMAT is the only thing that matters, you might look at these first few bullet points and think to yourself, this is terrible, this is horrible. But let's think about it. The academic stats do imply some level of competence, right? The GMAT was below the average, but it wasn't like a 200 or a 400 or a 500, right? It was a solid GMAT score. They went to a solid college, one that was well known in India, even though it wasn't an IIT, right? So even though perhaps this person would not have won the horse race had the race only been about GMAT score, there was certainly, I don't think, any concern in the eyes of an admissions committee that this person could, in fact, handle the rigorous work at a top MBA program. But hold up, let's not judge a book by its cover, and let's not judge an applicant by their GMAT score. There's more than meets the eye. The work experience. Prior to applying, this person worked for a very famous multinational medical company, technology company, a device company. So, right off the bat, like, okay, a multinational company is good, a famous multinational is even better. And while this person was there, they didn't just sort of sit around and wait for the clock to tick and for the day to go by. This person actually redesigned a sort of specialty medical product that usually only wealthy people in wealthy countries can use. And so because this person redesigned it, they were able to, the company was now able to sell versions of this medical device to lower income countries like in India and Latin America. So wow, that's a sort of an all caps and a bold ooh. And guess what? This product ended up being gangbusters successful. It generated millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of millions of dollars. But then there's more. There was more to the story. He realized that some of the doctors or surgeons or medical experts who were using this device, they were starting to reach out to the company and they were saying, look, we're not really sure. We're excited that we can finally afford this particular thing for this particular treatment, but we don't really know how to use it. So yikes. And so what then this applicant did was, at first senior management was like, yeah, whatever, read the instruction manual, like leave us alone. But this candidate persuaded senior management to invest money to actually create a formal training course. Now, when they first went to senior management and said, hey guys, I don't think the manual is enough. I think we need to go above and beyond the instruction manual. The boss was like, no, we're not going to spend money. Like, the manual should be good enough. Give me a break. But this applicant cared so much and believed so much in the product that they were able to then convince the senior management to allocate money to develop a training course. And then, hey, this applicant was like, you know what? I'm going to lead the development of the training course. I'm not just going to sit back and let someone else do it. I really care about this. So I'm going to create the training course myself with the budget that's been allocated. So it's not just that they were working at a famous company. Working at a famous company certainly helps. And it's not just because business schools are shallow. It's because they figure that the top companies in the world have pretty rigorous hiring standards. Therefore, if you get a job at one of these rigorous employers, The business school is thinking to themselves, well, great, this company already did most of the hard work of screening this person. And especially if someone is at a famous company and then has multiple promotions within that company, then it tells the admissions office, like, not only did this person pass the rigorous initial screening, but once they got there, they were super successful. And they kept getting promotions. They got promotions ahead of schedule, what have you. So that helps, if the admissions committee only has, say, 10 to 20 minutes for that first read through, it helps shift some of the work off of them, some of the pressure off of them, if they think, hey, this famous company likes this guy, right? They already did a lot of the heavy lifting of determining that this was a really strong person for us. So that's great. And not only it's just not like, oh, I should go work for a famous or fancy company because of the vanity aspect of it. No, this person drove real change in terms of a dollars and cents tangible impact. Right? This person wasn't just like, oh, I changed the company culture by instituting a weekly happy hour. Look, that's fine. That's better than nothing. But this was someone who could say, I did this and it generated this many millions of dollars. But wait, there's more. Not only was this person a complete superstar at work, but outside of work, they were really active in launching a bunch of hackathons. In their own company, they launched hackathons. In the broader community, they launched hackathons. And this person was also part of like an evaluation board for, there was sort of a nonprofit that was trying to develop, or not develop, but distribute seed funding to promising medtech startups around the world. And this candidate was actually one of the judges who would help decide which startups would get how much funding from the nonprofit. So kind of, I don't think it would be accurate to say venture capitalist, but when you think about what a venture capitalist does, it's, very, very similar to this kind of work. So what is it about the extracurriculars? Why am I spending a whole slide on this? First of all, they were not passive. This was not the sort of thing like the person showed up, signed up on a sign-up form, showed up for a couple of hours and, scooped out mashed potatoes at a soup kitchen for the homeless. Not that there's anything wrong with that. That is wonderful work. But it wasn't just the person sitting back and saying, well, I can't wait for this nonprofit to tell me what to do. This person was very active. They were very proactive in their different extracurricular activities. They weren't boring activities either. These were activities that showed this person's genuine passion for the medical technology ecosystem, not just within their own company, but within their own community and within the world, right? Because this nonprofit was actually giving seed funding to promising startups around the world. So this person's passion for medtech could be seen across multiple dimensions of their life. It was real leadership, right? This person launched the hackathon. They didn't just like take over an existing hackathon that was already in its 7th year and was already a well-oiled machine. This person had to convince senior management to let, hey, we're going to do a hackathon on a Friday. That means managers, you need to let your employees take Friday off effectively and come and do the hackathon, right? Like the level of persuasion and initiative and push and drive needed to launch these things is way better than just being a passive participant. And again, as with the work experience, this person could really quantify how many new inventions they helped launch through the hackathons, how many startups were funded, how much funding was allocated to them, right? So it was really easy upon reading the person's resume just how much quantifiable impact this person had had. I want to take a little quick side note on profile reviews. Now, you might know that a lot of admissions consulting companies out there will offer these free profile reviews. Contact us for your free 30-minute review. Let's be honest, these profile reviews are mostly sales calls in disguise. They're going to try to sell you on their products or they're going to try to figure out if you are reasonable to work with. So some of the firms that this person reached out to didn't even reply back to the request for the 30-minute profile review. And one firm was so put out by the low GMAT score that they said that we would only be willing to work with you if you targeted schools not even in the top 10, right? Somewhere around 13, 15, 18, what have you. The rankings change every year, but that was the general gist of it. And so, but why would an admissions consulting company even say that? Well, because they don't want to ruin their carefully crafted success metrics, right? You might see some other firms that say things like, oh, 93% of our people get into whatever. Like, they only work with people that they think are going to get in, or they only work with people that they think are going to be willing to accept their recommendations for which schools to apply to. So when this person said, look, no offense, but I'm not interested in going to a school that's ranked 15th. I'm setting my sights much higher. It became clear that that firm was like, oh, okay, well, good luck, right? And so just a side note about my business, the good news is the Applicant Lab platform does not stop anyone from applying to the world's top schools, right? The program is available for anyone to purchase and anyone to use. It's also bad news in a way, right? Because the Applicant Lab does not stop you from applying to top schools. So when you ask, sometimes people ask me like, oh, what are Applicant Lab success metrics? Are they in the 93%? First of all, I don't know because a ton of people buy the product and I never hear from them again, so I have no idea. But second of all, if I were to start thinking or caring about crafting that success metric for PR purposes, I would now have to screening people who buy my product and saying to them like, hey, you're not getting into Harvard, you're not getting, and I would try to push people to lower or less ambitious schools, or I would only accept certain people. And so I think the reason I really wanted to go through this review, this profile today, was because I wanted to show you guys that the GMAT score alone is not your destiny. Other people will say that it is, and there's something to be said for it, but it's not necessarily a set in stone thing. You can overcome barriers that other people will tell you are insurmountable. Okay, so what are the results? Drum roll, please. That was my attempt to make a drum roll noise. I failed completely, but hopefully I entertained you. Da-da-da! Stanford Business School. This person ended up getting into Stanford Business School. So you might be wondering, okay, whoa, what does all of this mean? First of all, the business schools will often tell you that they are running a holistic process. They are not lying. Listen to them when they tell you this. It really is a holistic process. They really will look at all facets of your application. Weakness in one academic part, such as, say, a poor test score, can be balanced out by strength elsewhere. So yeah, this person didn't go to IIT, but they went to a top engineering school and they did very, very well. I think they were first in their class or something like that, right? So if I'm an admissions officer and I'm looking at this profile, I'm thinking, ooh, I wish the GMAT score were higher. But then again, like, they're clearly not dumb. They're clearly intelligent enough because look at how well they did in this rigorous engineering school that we are familiar with here. So assuming that you, as a candidate, can clear that academic bar high enough to get them to read your story, at that point, the essays and the recommendations are what separates people from the successful stories and the unsuccessful stories. And the essays have to be based on actual things that you've done and you portraying your impact in the most effective way possible. And the recommendations, in this case, this person's recommendations were basically saying, like, look, we work for this large company, and this person's impact has not only been within our office in India, but within, some of the other offices around the world are sometimes calling us and asking for this person's guidance on things. So even though this person's in India, they have made an impact on our organization beyond our national borders. So those elements of the profile, that leadership, having the leadership background and then portraying that background effectively, that changes everything. That can wipe away or provide forgiveness, as it were, for a lower score at any moment. So let's take a step back and say, well, why Stanford? Like, that's, why would that be Stanford? Well, let's think about Stanford's motto. If you're not familiar with this already, you will be soon as you dive more into the admissions process. Stanford's motto is change lives, change organizations, change the world. And I think a mistake that a lot of applicants make is that they think, well, if I'm applying to Stanford, then I need to tell Stanford in their essay, where they ask me why Stanford, I need to tell them that I need Stanford and the Stanford education to become the sort of person who will eventually change lives, change organizations, and change the world. That's not wrong, but I think it misses kind of the point a little. The people who tend to get into Stanford have already started making changes on lives, organizations, and in fact, even the world. And they back it up with proof, right? They don't just say like, well, I aspire to be a leader at all times that makes an impact. No, they're like, hey, before this was the bad situation. It wasn't great. I came in and I said, this situation isn't great. Let's change it. And here's how I change it. And here's how I got other people to go along with it. And here's how I was able to change my company. So in my experience, the bare minimum for Stanford is showing that you've changed someone else's life. As a side note, one of the very common interview questions you get in the Stanford interview, one of them is, tell us about a time you identified an opportunity that no one else had seen. Another one is, tell us about a time you went above and beyond the bounds of what was your formal role. And then another one that they tend to ask pretty frequently is, tell us about a time that you mentored someone else, right? So I believe that part of the reason why they ask that interview question is because they're asking about the first one here, changing someone else's life. And then changing organizations is also very beneficial, right? So if you're applying to Stanford, think about showing, both through your essays and also having your recommenders talk about, what has been your broader impact on your company, hopefully beyond just the expected job description that you have, right? Because they want people who change organizations, and they also want people who don't just sit back and say, well, not my problem, right? If you have ever in your life sat back and been like, well, that's not my problem, then maybe you and Stanford are not a great fit. Right? Stanford is looking for people who find the problems, identify the problems, ideally problems that no one else has identified, and find solutions, ideally solutions that no one else has identified, and then actually do something about it. And it's all the better if you have already started to change the world. So this particular applicant had mentorship stories, had definitely changed the organization in a broader way, and in fact, through this medical device, could argue that this person had already started to change the world. So once someone has driven positive change, that change needs to be conveyed effectively through the materials in the application. And just as a heads up, like, I'm not saying that everyone who gets into Stanford has in fact already changed the world. Like, it's not that lofty. It's the most competitive program to get into. It's not like that competitive. You don't have to walk on water, but definitely think about this mantra or this motto as you're applying and ask yourself, when have I done definitely at least the first two of these? And what are the little seeds of, maybe I haven't had a chance to really start to change the world yet, but maybe I've had little seeds that I'm planting, little saplings of leadership potential that I can share with them to show them that I'm well on my way to becoming someone who can make a positive change in the world. So how can ApplicantLab help you with this journey? First of all, within ApplicantLab, I provide step-by-step guidance. There are exercises, there are reflections that I have you do, there are analyses. I dissect all of those top essay questions, especially like what matters most to you and why at Stanford. I break that one down into little pieces to help you identify what matters most to you. And then I teach you how to tell those stories in the best way throughout the essays, recommendation, application form, interview, etc. And the best part about ApplicantLab, it's not just that you can access it whenever you want. It's not just that I don't tell you, like, there's no way you're getting into Stanford. You're not allowed to use it for Stanford. Nope, I let anyone use it. But the best part is that for less than what 1 hour costs with a typical admissions consultant, right? Most admissions consultants these days, especially those of my caliber with my level of experience, are charging between $350 to $400, $425, $450 an hour. ApplicantLab costs less than that, and it'll cost you even less because as a GMAT Club loyal fan, if you use the code GMATClub10 at checkout, you get 10% off. And you can use the lab with or without another admissions consultant. First of all, lots of people use the lab by itself. And in the lab, I give you sort of a checklist for your essays that you can then share with a friend. So you give the friend the checklist and you give the essay to your friend and you say, hey, does my essay answer all of these questions? You can also use Applicant Lab and then hire me or someone on my team to provide you with additional help. We have sort of kind of an unconventional way of doing this, but we do it in a way that is the most efficient way possible and also therefore the most cost effective, because that is our mission, to provide world-class advice at a fraction of the price. So we are available to be hired, or you can use any other admissions consultant of your choosing. You can use the lab and then only buy a couple of a la carte hours with that other consultant. Or you can only buy a one-school package with another consultant and then use the lab for your other schools. Or maybe you've already purchased a multi-school package with someone else, no problem. If you've already spent $6,000, $8,000, $10,000 with some other consultant, why not buy Applicant Lab as kind of a sanity check for the advice you're getting elsewhere? Kind of consider it an insurance policy that you're taking out against that $10,000 purchase, right? Buy Applicant Lab and check. Is your consultant telling you the same advice that's in the lab? If it's the same, that gives you the reassurance that your consultant is a strong one. If it differs, then it's up to you to say, what is my gut telling me is the right way to go here? But at least you're getting a second opinion, right? People get second opinions from doctors all the time. Applicant Lab can be your source for a second opinion. So I hope that this video has been useful. My biggest takeaway for you is, if you really are a great leader who has really started making a positive impact in the world, don't let a lower score, don't let a message board, a stranger on the internet on a message board tell you that you're doomed. Don't even let another admissions consultant tell you that you're doomed. If you've really made those changes and if you've been someone who drives positive change, go for it. Apply to top schools. Give it all give it your best shot and just go for it. The other thing I want to point out is that admissions is also a crapshoot. Sometimes people think that admissions is this linear thing where they think, okay, if I get into a school that is ranked number 5, then I'm definitely getting into a school ranked number 6. And for sure getting into a school ranked number 10 or 15. It doesn't work that way. It's not a linear. It's not like, oh, well, if you get into a school ranked 2, you're definitely getting into a school ranked 4. That's really not how this process works. Just like admissions committees assess every candidate on a holistic level, they're also looking for things like fit, right? They're looking for who is the person, what is the type of leadership that we're looking for? Does this person resonate with, for example, our mission statement? Do we think they're going to be a great fit with our community? And so just like the good news is that your candidacy will be, evaluated on a holistic level, but sometimes that's bad news too, right? Because it can come down to a very subjective reading. Maybe a particular reader from a particular school doesn't connect with you. Honestly, sometimes it comes down to luck. I can assure you that there were other people in the applicant pool that looked like this person on paper, so to speak, and they probably didn't get in, but they might have gotten into other schools. One thing I want to point out in terms of this not being linear, this person got into Stanford. Stanford's the hardest business school in the world to get into, 6% acceptance rate, OMG, but they were rejected from several lower ranked schools. So, make sure that when you're applying, I'm begging you, please cast a wide net in terms of the schools that you apply to. Yes, go for some of those top schools. Why not? Right? Go for it. But also, while you're involved in it, don't just say well, I'm only going to apply to 2 schools. No, you need to apply to a lot of schools, because a lot of it comes down to luck. A lot of it is a bit of a crapshoot, and you might not get into any of those top schools. You might get into one and not get into any of the rest. It's really, every year there are people who surprise us as admissions consultants and who surprise themselves. So definitely shoot for the stars, but please cast a wide net. And please also try out the free trial of ApplicantLab.com and reach out to support@ApplicantLab.com if you have any questions. Thank you so much and have a great day.